January 1919. The guns of World War I were silent, but Europe was anything but peaceful. The war had ended 2 months earlier, yet its shadows still lay heavy over cities, villages, and broken lives. Trenches were empty, but the scars they left behind could not be erased. For millions of soldiers! The war did not truly end in 1918 across Europe. Men returned home carrying more than medals. They carried memories of mud, gas, screams, and endless loss. Many stepped off trains, expecting relief. Instead, they found a world that no longer felt like home. Cities were crowded with wounded veterans. Some were missing limbs. Others were blind. Many carried invisible wounds that no one yet understood. Nightmares followed them. Loud noises sent them back to the trenches. There was no word for trauma then. Only silence. In France and Belgium, entire landscapes were destroyed. Villages had vanished. Fields were poisoned by unexploded shells. Farmers plowed up bones instead of crops. The land itself seemed unwilling to forget the war. Meanwhile, world leaders gathered in Paris. The Paris Peace Conference of 1919 was meant to end all wars. Delegates from victorious nations arrived in fine clothes, staying in luxury hotels. Maps were spread across tables. Borders were drawn with pens. Decisions were made that would affect millions, often without their voices ever being heard. At the center of everything was Germany, blamed for the war. Germany was forced to accept full responsibility. The Treaty of Versailles stripped it of territory, limited its army, and demanded massive reparations. To the victors, it seemed like justice. Too many Germans, it felt like humiliation. Back in Germany, anger grew. Returning soldiers found no victory parades, only hunger, unemployment, and shame. The empire they had fought for no longer existed. The Kaiser was gone. A fragile republic struggled to survive amid strikes, riots, and political violence. Across Eastern Europe, chaos ruled. The collapse of empires created new nations overnight, Porendo, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, but borders drawn in distant conference rooms ignored ethnic realities. Old enemies were forced together. New grudges were born. Civil wars erupted. Revolutions spread. In Russia, the Bolsheviks fought to secure power after the revolution, plunging the country into years of bloodshed. The war had ended, but violence remained. Even for the victors, peace was bitter. Britain and France had won, but at terrible cost. An entire generation of young men was gone. Women filled factories and offices, having taken roles once denied to them. Society had changed forever, but grief lingered in every street. Families mourned sons who never returned. Graves stretched across Europe, marked with simple white crosses. Many bodies were never found. For thousands of families, there was no burial, only unanswered questions. In 1919, the world tried to move forward. War memorials were built. Parades were held. Speeches promised that such a catastrophe would never happen again. The League of Nations was created to preserve peace through diplomacy. Yet, beneath the surface, the foundations were already cracking. The treaties punished the defeated but failed to heal Europe. Economic hardship spread. Nationalism intensified. Veterans felt abandoned. Hatred was buried, not destroyed. Some soldiers could not let go of the war. They missed the structure of the trenches, the bond of survival, the clarity of enemy and ally. Peace felt confusing, slow, and meaningless. Many drifted toward extremism, violence, and radical movements that promised purpose again. By the end of 1919, the world stood at a crossroads. One path led toward cooperation, rebuilding, and healing. The other led back toward anger, revenge, and war. History would soon reveal which path humanity chose. World War I ended on paper in 1980. But in reality, its final chapter was written in 1919 in shattered lives, broken nations, and unresolved hatred. It was not the end of a war. It was the beginning of a dangerous peace. And the world would pay the price for failing to truly understand what the Great War had done.